think at this point we might just need to try to block this Soraka. It's becoming a bit of a problem. After seeing a bunch of it last expansion, I'm sure that plenty of you are tired of Targon, and I get it. But after doing Croc Week last week, I said to myself I needed to start playing some slightly more competitive decks, at least in the near future, because I have not been focusing on climbing at all. And I think this is a happy medium. So this is going to be a Targon based list, but instead we are going to be splashing Piltover and Zon so that I have an excuse to play Vi. I'm going to talk about why I think she's a good choice here. But if you're one of the folks that just wants to jump to the games, I do have time tags in the video description. Just make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet before you jump to those. Now, we're going to go through the list, and I do want to say that this is going to be, again, very similar to many Targon lists because the core is pretty similar throughout. You're going to have some Invoke cards, you're going to have Hush, you're going to have Aphelios and some Activators, and you're going to have Temple, right? So we know that's going to be there, but I still think that Vi is potentially a really good match. Not probably as strong as Twisted Fate or Tahm Kench because the Bilgewater stuff is also really, really good, but I think that there is some merit here. All right, so right out of the gate, 3 Lunari, Duskbringer. This is, after all, an Aphelios list, and your usual openers when you're playing Bilgewater is Duskbringer on 1, you pass on 2 so that you can use the pedal to play Aphelios on 3 into Crescendum into Boxtopus. Now, we don't have Boxtopus because we are splashing Piltover and Zon, but we can still take the same opener and end up with Ballistic Bot. Ballistic Bot is a great value generator in terms of the ignition, but also it's nice because the augment means it grows whenever we play our invoked cards as well. And this means that your 2-cost unit, it's not as proactive as Boxtopus, meaning you can't challenge the units that are bothering you, but you can use it as a very effective blocker, and it can start to become absurd in size once a temple comes down. And that also in turn then makes it a really great target for your Aphelios weapons, specifically the Overwhelm one. And that's going to be a bit of a theme with this version of the deck, I think. 3 Guiding Touches because I like the cycle. You're going to see that as well in Pale Cascade. I also just like having the healing on hand. Now, this could probably come down by 1 if you really want to be spicy. And you could include a one of Sumpworks map if you really wanted to, but otherwise we're running 3 of this. Sumpworks map, the only reason that I'm not really super high on this is because the deck already has some susceptibility to your opponent hushing you and going all in on the elusive play just to already play into something that's a weakness feels a little bit bad. But I would not fault you if you want to cut one of these for a Sumpworks map, have at it. 3 Iterative Improvement. This is one of the reasons to splash for Piltover and Zon, because not only is improvement good on some of your existing units, aka your invoke units, because one of the things about Targon is you just never run out of cards, right? The idea is most of the things you play create more things, and then you just keep going. Everything is just value, and you cannot lose a war of attrition when you're playing Targon. Now, you can get out-bombed or burst out of a game, but you cannot lose a war of attrition, and this just continues that trend. You can again, make copies of your invoke units. You can make copies of pesky units that your opponents have created to get value there. Or if not, your invoke units themselves, like maybe you don't want to copy the Fangs, but, you know, maybe, for example, off of your Priestess, you get the Sisters, and then you can use improvement to copy the Lifesteal one. And then when you play that, you get 2 Sisters again, because she's the one with the comes into play effect. So lots of neat things you can do with this card. Also running 3 copies of Mystic Shot because, you know, Twisted Fate is a thing and you want to have ways to try to kill him. But honestly, this is also great for opposing Aphelios lists. So traditionally, when you want to beat Aphelios lists, you play Aphelios but with Tahm Kench, and then Tahm Kench makes it so that you can just keep eating your opponent's units. It gives Targon access to repeated removal, which is not something that they normally have. Now, we don't have something on par with Tahm Kench, just being upfront. We do not have that, but we do have the ability to run Mystic Shot, and then we do have the ability to make use of Vi, and I'll talk about that when we get to her. So this tries to make up for some of our deficiencies. Again, Cascade here just for the cycle. Aphelios, kind of the point of any of your modern Targon decks. Like if you're not running Aphelios, then you're probably on some sort of Aurelian Soul meme, or you're on like strict Daybreak, I gotta run Leona and something else. But you should be running Aphelios, just period. 2 copies of Hush, which is pretty standard. I could see an argument made for 3. Card is still really good, even at 3 mana. Solari Priestess here, we want to invoke things. And again, we don't have a lot of traditional removal. I know some lists will only like to run 2 of these, but I like taking as many shots as I can at trying to find cards like Comet, for example, or, you know, the Meteor, because we just don't have traditional removal, and this can help out with that. 2 copies of Bastion, 3 of the Fangs, 3 Temples, 3 Star Shaping. All of that's pretty standard. And then Vi. So Vi is one of the reasons I wanted to build the deck. Honestly, she's one of my favorite champions from League. I'm not a big jungling fan, but when I did do it, it's because I wanted to play Vi. I miss being able to lane with her. That was back in my League heyday, and I really enjoyed her. And so it's no different here. I'm always trying to find excuses to play Vi. Usually it ends up being something where I'm trying to play her with Noxus so that you can get the surprise might for a big overwhelm play. So it might be like Vi Riven, for example. I've played her with Shadow Isles. You can go that route as well, where you get a really big and then you go for the big atrocity play. But here, what Vi does is twofold. First, just like the bots, she is a great target to just keep growing from your temples. And then that in turn means that you can potentially get repeated value from her. So while she doesn't continue to create removal a la Tahm Kench, and Tahm Kench I still think is probably slightly better because his card is a resource that you can pitch or use for other things, and you can use his ability to eat things even on your non-attack token turns, which is a really big deal. But she does still give you access to potentially repeated removal, in that her challenge means you can pick off units. We've got great ways to kind of keep her afloat. Again, whether it's Bastion, whether it's Pale Cascade, the guiding touches to heal her, the Temple, because once she gets going, she's probably the target who's going to start growing from Temple. She just becomes a great unit for you using her to punish your opponent's board, and then she serves as a secondary win condition because when she levels up, obviously she's got her strike a unit while attacking thing, but also she's a great target, just like the bots, for Aphelios and his moon weapons. So if you want to give her Infernum, for example, you can sometimes crash in for a lot of overwhelm damage. Now, it's not the surprise got you play that playing Noxus provides, where, you know, you get that might at the last second or whatever, but this is a slow burn style of deck anyway. And it's very similar to almost playing like Aphelios Lee Sin, but without the flashiness of Lee Sin. In many ways, this is like 2 existing deck archetypes just made worse so that I have an excuse to play Vi. And I'm just being upfront about that. There's a strong argument to be made that if you want to play a deck like this, you just play Aphelios Lee Sin, or if you want to go in the other direction with the kind of mid-rangey play style, grind them out, then you should probably be playing either Twisted Fate or Tahm Kench. But I want an excuse to play Vi, but I still also wanted to keep things somewhat competitive this week, and I think this list is good enough because the reality is Targon's just good enough. I mean, that's where we're at. This Targon core is kind of good enough to carry most archetypes, and then you can certainly choose to be a bit funny, I'll say, a bit out of the ordinary with your other inclusions. So with that being said, we're gonna go play 2 games now and take a look at the deck, show it off, and let's do that now. Oh, game started, caught me drinking coffee. All right, we are jumping into a game here against Swain Braum, which is interesting. I've seen a lot of Vlad Braum lately, but we will certainly check out this Swain Braum phenomenon. We'll throw away the touch here, but I like the rest. We obviously want Duskbringer into Aphelios. Having the Mystic Shot as backup here, kind of nice as well. Fangs is a good follow-up. Honestly, the only thing we're really missing with this hand would be like a temple to get down early on and get us rolling. Now, just because you see Swain here does not mean it's not still the exact same deck. It's entirely possible that this could be a similar style deck where they're relying on Swain for the top end because you're nuking the board and so forth. Now, we have a real interesting dilemma here, because they have Avalanche mana, and this is a deck that certainly could take that shot. So this is a bit of a greedy setup, but we're gonna go ahead and do it. We still take, I think, Crescendum here, but I wanna be clear. The only reason I'm still doing this is we have Pale Cascade, so if they slap Avalanche on the stack, then we can try to keep our Aphelios alive. I don't think you go for the Crescendum here quite yet, though. I think you try to take this damage in case they do have said Avalanche or other cards.
Warm hearts and hot soups.
And now at 3 mana. So the concern at 3 mana would be something like a Death's Hand, right? And so they could nuke our Aphelios. We have a backup Aphelios, though, so I think I'm still okay with this. I want to get a bot down. And let's go to Calibrum. But Death's Hand is a real possibility here at 3 mana.
A crescent path opens before us.
Can you improve perfection?
Bastion here is a very solid pickup. This might just be straight up banking spell mana. So this is an interesting situation because we basically have to use our Bastion. If we go with the Pale Cascade, it obviously goes away at the end of the round. So you just take the Bastion here. Now they could do something to pop the spell shield, but then we're still at the 3 health. Like, that was the real important piece of the Bastion. So I think that this is the appropriate play. Now they could attack with this, but we just block with our 2-1 since we're about to lose it anyway, and I think they did that math. Now it also is worth noting that that's landmark damage, right? So the Blighted Ravine does still hit your Aphelios even with the spell shield. It's not a skill or a spell or anything of that nature. And now we have to decide how we want to navigate this turn. We know that we've got a Calibrum coming, but we'd have to play 2 spells to get there. And they still have a lot of mana available here. Could slow play this with the Ignition just to see what they got up their sleeve. It's not necessarily a terrible play. Other options include just straight up using this Aphelios to snag something and nuke that. We could also just try to Mystic Shot this to set up attacking in. But I think I want to go with the poke. One of the things we're a bit concerned about long term is Swain, and then obviously like Leviathan, and Swain here is already looking good for them. So we could Pale Cascade here to get our Calibrum and then use that to nuke this. This would also be a 5/5, so they would have to have something to buff Braum in order to keep him alive. Now at 4 mana they likely have that, but I think that this is the way we want to go. Let's be a bit risky. Finding the temple is nice. And let's go with a Gravitum for the next one. So at 4 here, they also still could be trying to go something like Avalanche, but we have the Spell Shield. Oh, interesting. They have the Take Heart ready to go. They really wanted to keep that alive, huh? And the Flock. Okay. So we just take the pass here. And if we can get away with it, I was about to say, we really just want to play Temple this round, but I think we're going to have to Mystic Shot this to avoid taking 6. Could try to do it here, but 6 is a lot of damage to take. Now at 6, they could certainly have something to peel our spell shield off and nuke us, but I still think I want to do this. Curious what Bjerg is pulling here. It's not going to be a Braum. Probably a Leviathan. Like, this is probably just your guarantee Leviathan. Yoink. So we're looking for a Comet, and we find it because we need answers for that Leviathan when it comes down next round. And while we can stun it, that's not nearly as helpful. Oh. Well, that's certainly going to be annoying. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll grab another Crescendum here. Can level up our Aphelios by going with the Crescendum. So we got the Aphelios leveled up, which is good for us long term. Because again, we still have our backup one as well, but it's another bonus to the health as we try to keep him around. Getting the quick attack here is somewhat relevant as well. We could be really greedy and attack here. They don't have anything damaged, so we don't technically have to worry about like a take heart, but they could have transfuses. And we don't have enough mana for a Hush at this point.
Find peace in the quiet, Fel. It's just us.
I think we let this go. As frustrating as it is, I think we let this go.
Let's show our friends the door.
All right, so they go with a Ravine, which again, you have to remember will hit our Aphelios through the spell shield. They've went below Leviathan mana though, so we don't have to worry about holding on to Comet as much here. We could also just nuke that, but I think saving the Comet for the Leviathan we basically know they're sitting on is a bit more important. I think what they did here is they realized that this Maiden still hit us through the spell shield, and so they're trying to set both up. And so we're gonna go ahead and start with the attempted Calibrum here. Now we also have plenty of ways to potentially keep this alive with the touch. But we would like to just deal with that if we can help it. Okay, so they go with the Brahms take heart here. Interesting. So we could have survived this if they had attacked in, because we have the temple activation and we could have healed. We actually could have survived that, but I think that they were trying to bait out me using something like the Comet here. We also have the Hush, is kind of a big deal. I think we just take our ignition poke for now. I think this is entirely reasonable to just slow play this a bit, since they did this but opted to not.
First we fight. Good luck. Have fun. You gotta believe me.
So we take this block because both of these are going to die to the ravine anyway. Now it's just a question of whether or not we want to save our ballistic bot, because again, we could choose to do that. We really want to. We also could just copy it with something like iterative here, but that doesn't necessarily feel great. I think we just save this and we pass. I think we let this go. All the tools we have are tools that we want for other things, if we can help it. Because as I was saying, like, we have the Comet, but Comet for Leviathan feels much better. We can deal with Braum with a Hush if we absolutely have to. We don't want to develop these Fangs till after the Ravine. So I think this is just, you save your resources. And you pass through. We could heal this, but I'd rather save the heal for Aphelios in case they do something cheeky. I think this is also a bit of a slow play. Get our temple kind of going. We'll develop a Fangs, I think, next, because with the mana coming back,
Will no one listen?
we'll be fine. Oh, interesting. Trickster is tempting because of the elusive. Obviously, Messenger draws us a card. We're not really hurting for cards at the moment. Messenger's a great target for things like iterative. This means they also have 2 Leviathans now, which is a bit problematic. So because of that, I think we actually want the dog. I think we're going to want to just dig deeper. So we miss out on creating a new moon weapon here, sadly. We still have 1 bot left if we want to go crescendum. And I think we do for now. I don't think we're quite to Infernum territory yet. So with them sitting on 7 mana and 5 cards, but again, we're pretty confident right now that 2 of these 5 cards are just a Leviathan. I think we can be a little bit greedier, go a little bit deeper here. Ooh, a temple. Temple number 2 is juicy. I'm not. All right, so now they're drawing even more cards. We don't have any ways to get this down and then also trigger this. So I think right now, while we have mana available, we take this attack.
Stand behind Braum.
See what tricks they have with the Braum. Again, we're really going for a Hush here if they have any sort of combat tricks, but at 3 mana, even if they had another Take Heart, we can just Pale Cascade and be fine. So I would prefer to do that. Get another temple developed so that we can play some spicy games with mana next round. With our spell shield and having backup here and them at 3 mana, I think this is still safe. All right, so this levels their Braum potentially while popping our spell shield. Yeah, Braum being leveled here is a bit annoying. But again, I don't think we can deal with Braum with the Comet. Like, we just have to do that with a Hush at some point. So, I think this just has to happen. I think this just has to happen the way that it is for now. Now this crescendum finds our last bot, so we would like to use that at some point just to avoid drawing our final bot. So let's start with that. It also gives us a body here. And I don't think the Calibrum's as useful right now, so we'll grab the Severum next. At worst, it's like we can pop it here just to heal Aphelios, like even if he ever gets into trouble. So like this is an avalanche, and obviously Scargrounds is gonna make things get big and spicy. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not 2 Leviathans in hand, but sure feels like it is. This is just a question about whether or not we want to keep this Fangs alive this round for the healing. Because I feel like that might be a yes.
Find peace in the quiet, fella. It's just us.
Found another Aphelios. But with them only at 3 mana here, I think keeping this board around is really beneficial for us. So we attempt to stack our Aphelios, and then we have to decide what we want for next round. I think next round is where we start thinking Infernum is the way to go. And this is where they attempt a Fervor, I would assume. A Flock, okay. And we go with a heal. Hope they don't have more Flocks, because again, 2 of those should be Leviathans.
From darkness, light.
Let's show our friends they know.
And so this is where they... Oh, interesting. I thought for sure they'd be taking their shot at our Aphelios with the Braum. They just really don't want to give me any shot at that Hush play, do they? We already have another Fangs, so I'm not sure if it's worth it to do the iterative here, but it's kind of tempting. Yeah, I want to grab one of these. I want it to be a little bit bigger. The reality is that we just have to fake that we have a way to keep Aphelios alive. We don't actually have a way to keep Aphelios alive, but we just need to keep it open in case they try something else here. All right, now it's a bit problematic, because we legitimately don't have a way to keep Aphelios alive. Whoa, that is not what we want. So we're going to do our best here. At this point, the Crescendum's not doing us any favors. So this should be 2 Leviathans and then 2 other cards. And so we are... So there's the first Leviathan. So now, hopefully, by going up to 6 health, this is a survivable exchange. And then with our Hush baked in here, or whatever tries to block our big boy Aphelios, we should be able to push this through. Because we also have the Mystic Shot.
With the Knight's Embrace.
Yep, we'll send him. I want to have enough mana that we can do all the things. That means if necessary, I don't suspect it'll be required, but if necessary, something like double hush into a mystic shot. Oh, that is just tantamount to conceding. I mean, I know you don't want to lose a Braum, but at least this keeps you alive. Now, I am going to hush this to present lethal. Still. They could have a buff of some sort. And there's the first game down. Okay, so pretty standard stuff. Sadly, no Vi showing up, but let's play another game and see if maybe we can actually find her this time. Oh man, you almost caught me drinking coffee again at the start of the game. Then I heard the music. All right. So Tahm Kench Soraka, I think, is just generally a bad matchup for us. So I think we're going to throw everything but Vi back. I think 1 in the opener is fine, so she starts getting stacks, but also we didn't see her at all in the first game, and I just want an excuse to play her. But I don't think that this is a particularly great matchup for us, because it's very dependent on whether or not we find the right answers for Tahm Kench. Now, we do have a hush, which is part of the solution, but we also have a slow start.
I'm still good to scrap.
That's an easy mystic shot since they have no mana to heal it.
Let me guide you.
All right, well, I guess take this one as well while they don't have the ability to stop that. Just try to slow them down a wee bit since our start is as awful as it is. Interesting. So we ended up here with Fangs, but I think that this is a much better play because we want to know early on whether or not we have access to Comet. We do not have access to Comet. Okay. So this is a bit of a tough call because Meteor Shower does not answer Tahm Kench the way that we would like. We don't really want Warrior because Vi is going to fill that role for us anyway. So I suppose this is a written in the stars grab because it might find us our Aphelios as an engine later. Just make no mistake about it, like this doesn't feel great right now. Oof. Maybe I do want the Meteor Shower just to nuke some of their wounded things. I mean, we've got another few shots at potential answers here and there. I take it back. I think I want this.
Daylight warms the heart and lights the way.
I don't change fate.
Okay. We're somewhat happy to see that. I mean, we're not happy about much of this, but we're somewhat happy to see that because Tahm Kench there would have been problematic. See, this is why we really wish we had more mana. This is the exact situation that I was taking this for in case it came up again, but we cannot stop it. So they get to do their thing. And we try to get Vi down and pray that she gives us a way to oppress opposing Tahm Kenches. I say pray because they could play Tahm Kench now, and then next round they could go right into having Astral to protect him. Now, again, thankfully we have our Hush. Or maybe dealing with that, but there's a Comet. That's a slam pick. But we wanted to play at least something first so that we can try to threaten the Soraka with our Vi. Now again, this is pretty standard Tahm Kench stuff, so they probably have a way to keep her alive.
I don't need a plan.
But we want to force it. Couple of different ways that we can handle this. Could iterative the lounge lizard and then play one so that we have a blocker ourselves. That would save us from having to use our hush on that. But that doesn't allow us to finish her off. I think you let this go and we just aim for like a meteor shower play. Even just doing 1 damage to this, it might slow it down some. Let's go this route. They didn't play Astral before. So right now, if they've got another Vigor, it's not enough to save her. We're targeting her with the 4. So there's the Astral. But at least we forced it out of them. You don't really want to use an Astral on Soraka. It's like not the sort of thing that you're usually looking for.
You leave me no choice.
Should have stayed home, pal.
Interesting
Take heart. The possibilities are infinite.
that they chose to heal
Live
there instead of heal the lizard.
back, heretic.
So if I take some damage, let's get a fangs down. We gotta start recouping our health a bit. Equinox here looks really good as a potential answer if they do heal this. Because if they don't heal it, then we'll just go to the next round. And we don't have to do this round. We'll still let it take the damage, I think. Okay, do we want to heal our Vi with one of these touches? Let's actually just pass for now. We only lose 1 mana if we go this route. So like I like opening this now with a cycle. Let's do this as well. Wow, we found all of our star shapings. Okay. Do not have a pale cascade to keep this alive.
Punch it. Eat this.
This also does not kill Soraka, which is a bit of an issue. But it would let me level up Vi. It's interesting. I'm not actually sure that I want to take that.
Trouble coming at ya.
We want to level her up. It's just a question of against what. So I think maybe even just taking this out is fine, because we're going to end up silencing this round. And then probably just saving our mana for something like Comet. So I think it's actually that we just do this. This is such a annoyingly tough call, but I think that this is correct. This makes sure that we get something off the board. And it levels up our Vi, and I think that's the important piece here. We want to level her up so that she can start working on their Nexus. We're trying to save our Comet for
Live with purpose.
either Star Springs or Tom Kench, basically. Because both of those things are bad for us. We'll go ahead and take this silence now, though. Now that they have again shown they plan on keeping it alive, we'll just go ahead and get rid of the elusive portion. Yeah, I think we let this go. I really wanted to use a star shaping here to heal, but It's also entirely possible that the path they're taking is to get us to spend mana so that they can develop a Tahm Kench or do these things. It's just not something that we want to do.
Take heart. Live with purpose.
So this is interesting. I mean, I think we still take this block. It gets even more damage on our Vi, but I think we still take this. Without Tahm Kench, they don't have a great way to deal with her, and so we're just trying to make Vi be our win condition. We've got a backup one if we really need it. And they've got to throw a lot of buffs here to even try to make this work. But that's still not enough. We're still here at 1. All right, so here Cosmic Rays is insane for us. So we will happily take that. Now you could also take Supernova if you're worried about something like Star Springs, but we're very happy to see the Cosmic Rays come down. So there's Star Spring, and I think we just Comet this one. They might have another one, but at least we'll know that. So they might load up the board and then play another one. That's what I would expect them to do here. Now our play is we want Priestess. Meteor Shower is probably not as helpful here. So I guess we'll grab Traveler for now.
Warms the heart and lights the way.
There's a Star Spring for them. And they might have a Bastion to keep something alive here. Pale Cascade and a Bastion. This is still very impactful. And whatever is still alive, then we can try to smack it with Vi. So there's the Cascade. And there's the Bastion. We just don't want them to have the third Bastion is all.
Take heart.
That's a Codger.
Punch it. Freeze.
So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. So this second one is a bit problematic. That's why we went with Traveler. I didn't say it at the time, but the thought process was if you whiff on a Comet in a matchup like this and you really want that, then feel free to just take the card that gives you another shot at Comet.
No choice. Take heart. Live with
I mean, I'm fine with taking the 3 damage here, so I think you just let this through. But I want another shot at Comets. We can't do it this round, but all right, I'll do this, I guess. We're starting to hit the point where it's a little problematic, as Star Spring's already at 5. Like, this can go up pretty quickly with a big Soraka like that.
Good to see you.
All right, so they are down to 4. Again, I think we just pass here, bank the spell mana. We don't want to hurt their Nexus anymore for a bit because of that. So we'll take a shot at a Comet. Whiff.
Bask in her radiant blessing.
Take a shot at a Comet. And whiff.
The mountain knows me. I am the traveler.
You know, if we end the round here, they don't get any healing, which is actually kind of good for us. And then we get more comet shots. So I actually think we just end the round there. They're down to 13 cards left. We haven't seen a single Tahm Kench yet. They are way deeper in their deck than we are ours. And so if we can just stop the Star Spring, we'll be better off. I think at this point we might just need to try to block this Soraka. It's becoming a bit of a problem. All right, so that was successful. Now they likely have more Sorakas. Hey, we found a comet. All right, so if we nuke this one, then we'll only have one more that we have to deal with. So yeah, there's another Soraka. Right now, this isn't threatening if they just pass.
I will find the goodness in you, River King.
So there's a Tahm Kench. But we will have an opportunity to threaten him with an open attack next round. So I think you do this. Likelihood of them having the last one's pretty high, but
appetizers of plenty.
Punch it.
it's nice that she's already leveled for us. Problem is this actually gives Broadbacked a way for them to start taking damage, which is a wee bit interesting. Just trying to think this through. We don't have another Hush, which is a small problem, but I think you still have to do this. We have the backup Vi. We really need it, but looks like that one's successful. We've only seen the one Astral, right? So that's what keeps giving me pause. We've only seen the one. Oh, that was a snap pick by them. That's a bit scary.
Live with purpose.
Down to 10, huh? I mean, that was a snap pick by them.
Come on, Mayman.
If we take the Calibrum, they would have to have some sort of healing effect to keep this up, and we can phase to Gravitum. And this is going to trigger to give us the mana back. Whatever they snap picked, I'm feeling like it's some sort of like elusive threat as well. Now we've got plenty of healing, but no Hush, which is my one concern. But this dies. We're just slowly, this is what I meant earlier when I was doing the deck tech and I was talking about, like, you can't win a war of attrition against decks like this. All right, so that's what they snap picked. So they're gonna nuke my temple, which, you know, makes me sad. We still have two more in the list somewhere, and they're gonna nuke this Vi. We have a backup Vi. So I think you just let this go. I don't think there's any reason to dig for like a Bastion or something here. I think you just let this go. I think you just let it go, because again, we leveled up her Vi, so she's already a 10-5 every time she comes down, right?
Find the goodness in you, River King.
Hope only provides temporary sustenance, child.
Guess we take another shot. There's another comet. So we've only seen the one Astral. You have to assume that they have at least another, but that's not enough to keep Tahm Kench alive by itself.
Should have stayed home, pal.
They're gonna get that. We got greedy and didn't go for the gravitum there like we were supposed to, which is a bit of a shame. Even if we cycle and find like a Pale Cascade, that's no help. So I think you'll let that go as well. Oh, and there would have been one as well. Okay, well, I think you take that. I'm just concerned about attacking with everything. So if you're wondering why I haven't been doing that, there's one Star Springs left in the deck. And we did not want a scenario where they get to play the Star Springs, play a bunch of healing, and then just win. But since we have Comet, now is the time where I think we do it to try to bait them to play the last Star Springs. Because that's the concern. If they block with everything here and then they play like heal your entire squad along with the Star Springs, they can jumpstart the counter, and that's really bad for us, right? So the reason we were not doing it before was that we just did not want to deal with that nonsense. So this is how you answer a Great Beyond, if you're wondering. Now, what they are going to do here is use this to pull to try to force this through. But that's not enough by itself at the moment, so they have to try to do some other stuff. But we also have our healing stuff.
You leave me no choice.
Start the round. Ooh, you wee scruff.
Oh, that would be really interesting if they take that pull. That would not be what I was expecting at all, unless they just want to get rid of my own now. But we would be fine with that.
Where are you?
Yeah, they figured it out.
I've got this. Aye, right. Should have stayed home, pal.
Live with purpose. There's the 1-2 punch. Open your eyes.
All right, so right now we're not dying unless they do something else, so we're fine with going to 2 here. Just like on principle, saving our mana for other potential surprises. We'd also love to nuke the Soraka because we've dealt with 2 Toms, and if we deal with this, then there's no way they can use champions to keep their deck afloat. So we go down to 2. Play a temple. So this is the last Soraka. I know that we could activate temple with a couple of plays here, but I really want to stay at 6 in case they have that Star Spring or they try anything else fancy, and I want to keep the star shaping mana. So I think you just pass here, try to bank it. Because again, the other issue now for them is we've gotten rid of 2 Sorakas, 2-time Kenches. So they can't have a champion in play and keep playing their champion spell to shuffle back in. So we should be able to just go the distance here. There's no reason to take like any risks at all, really. Here's another veiled temple, and so we will... You know what? We won't... We haven't seen any hushes from them though, have we? I was gonna say, what are the chances that they have 2 hushes, because they have to burn through the spell shield and then hush this to be able to block it with something that doesn't have elusive. I mean, we could slow play this pretty hard with going into, yeah, let's slow play it. I want to try to get them to spend mana if we can help it. A very snap play would be to just like send attackers, but there's a method to my madness. If we do this, there we go. Well, that was not what I was meaning to click there. That was an accident. I meant to select the overwhelm, but sometimes when it's loading, I'm clicking and even though the cards aren't on screen, they're like legitimately there. If that makes sense. But by doing it this way, we potentially get rid of this. I was gonna say, I say potentially. So they've used a bastion now. But that still also leaves us with the 6 mana back for if they do go for a Star Springs of some sort. So we also swing with this because we want the lifesteal, but now we do this, right? And so we wait for the multiple answers because they have to pop the spell shield and then have a hush and then have a blocker, basically. So here's hush number 1. I assume hush number 2 because they are really deep in their deck. Now the good news is that just keeps them alive. They're down to 1 mana, so this is safe now. And that should be just game. Because ours is also going to get everything back after the turn ends. And with 1 mana, and we now are up to the 7 health, we should be fine in pretty much every respect here. We still have the Comet for whatever the last Star Spring is. So they should have an Astral left, a Star Spring left, a Tom Kench left, and then 3 other cards. Right? That's 3 of their 6 cards. So there's the Astral. Which digs them into the last Star Spring. That's the last one that we want to worry about. So we'll just do this now. Let's just get it out of the way. We'll do this for insurance because it really buffs that. We'll also take the Immortal Fire as more elusive insurance. Tops off our health, but this is now over. So that time Vi did some work and I'm really excited with how this turned out. We showed off the attrition thing I talked about. We showed off how Vi can help you. Hopefully you enjoyed the game. Yes, I'm still at Plat 3 because as I said at the end of last week, I need to start focusing on climbing. But that was a nice, easy, clean 2-0. Showcased all of the stuff I talked about during the deck explanation. So hopefully, you know, the video helps you. Now, I get it, right? If you're watching this, there's no reason to be impressed here. Targon absolutely carries this list the same way Targon carries a number of mid-range lists right now. But I do think that there are some legitimate benefits to this Piltover Zone version. Whether or not it's enough to push it over the top in terms of being better than the Twisted Fate version or better than the Tom Kench version, I don't think so. The big reason I don't think that it's as good against those two, or it's as good as those two are, is simply because Vi is still susceptible to Hush really messing you up. Unless you can get her leveled. Once you get her leveled, you get a little bit more leeway because that 10 attack is permanent. But the pre-leveled Vi, that can be a bit of a liability at times. But outside of that, I had fun. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. And until next time, may you walk on warm sands.